So thanks everyone for having me. A little bit about myself. I graduated from University of Tennessee. I worked for 3 years at an architecture firm in multi-residential housing in DC before I moved to Clark, who I've been with for over 6 years now. Um, in my spare time, my husband Hamid and I walk our COVID puppy, Fendi, a lot. That's what we've been doing these days, hoping we can travel more. But it's been good in the meantime. All right, so I'm going to first get us started off with Clark's typical process in Navisworks. For the contractors on the line, some of what I'm going through is going to sound really familiar or almost identical to some of the processes that you all use. But the focus is really about how we use it in pre-construction and offering review to the design models prior to IFC. So what we first start out with is really just looking at high level, all the clashes in a particular zone that we've highlighted. So we're looking at examples of what clash detection looks like before you do anything with it. And I think everyone on the call is familiar with this. Towards the end of coordination, when we're in more granular issue tracking, like hangers and things like that, we may still look at it like this, but we like to lump it together and look at more high level in the beginning. And the way that we do this is really to just pull it all together by one zone and create a group. And then we work backwards by deducting similar issue types together. And the way that we do this in design is really looking at program type, not necessarily system type like we would in construction. So in this particular case, with this model, we're looking at a unit because we really want to understand all of the major clashes just within the unit. In a large, let's say, hotel, we may be looking at a larger room. But what we do from there is use the inclusive tool to essentially grab all those clashes and then break them outside of the larger clash group. So this is a really quick way within just a few clicks to start isolating clashes without having to go through them individually. So we're really just looking at them by program. And what we do from there is, and this is going to be similar to some of the other issue tracker that Kevin was referring to in BIM 360, but we use a tool called DimTrack, which I think many people on the call have heard of. And what we do with that is essentially the groups that we've created, we then push those clash groups to DimTrack. And from there, we really encourage the design team that we're handing these issues over to filter by what they deem is important. So in this particular example, we're just looking at the clash type or the clash test, and then we're filtering by the zone. And then what we do is really just prioritize those issues and then walk through them in meetings or generate reports from them. So that, again, we're not just focusing on, hey, there's a big duct clashing, but it's like, what does that look like within this particular space? How can we inform the movement with that? The last thing that we do as a standard that we've been moving towards, I shouldn't necessarily say standard, but we're doing more of, is taking the issues in DimTrack and then transitioning them over to PowerBI. And what this allows us to do is over time start to see the aggregate of issues. So in this particular project, we're looking at 613 and we're starting to see some charts, and we've got over 100 of issues that have been prioritized as high, which isn't super helpful. But if we then start to filter down by a zone and then also filter down by priority, we're able to really start to focus on specific issue types and specific issues that may help us to close out the majority of the issues in that particular zone. With this type of dashboard, and when we're using it into construction, it also helps us to see trends on what particular subs may be having lag in the issues that they're trying to close out, which helps us to talk with management and really understand, hey, is this a schedule issue? Is this a manpower issue, what are the things that we can do to help make this better and help us close out these zones. And the last thing to note for this particular tool, again, very similar to issues in BIM 360, is if we target those specific number of issues that we were looking at in Power BI, we can then use the view and model tool, which again looks very similar to the BIM 360 issues, but this also works in Revit and AutoCAD. And we found that it's much more palatable than giving just a static report to our designers or our subs, just encouraging them to pull it into Navisworks or pull it into their native modeling environment so they can then solve those issues in real time. That's it.